Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Trump-Harris debate that they did on Middle Ground, and we'll see how this goes. We're going to speed it up a bit because I did a reaction to another one of these, and it took a long-ass time, so we're just going to try to speed through this a bit.
No matter what my candidate does, I will still vote for them.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said if
I'm pretty sure the guy on the Harris side, the one guy who like stayed behind, is literally a Hassan fan. So we'll see how this goes.
Crowd and just started, yelling at people, calling them stupid, or like did something crazy that I wouldn't still vote for him. It would have to be like walk out in Times Square, or shoot someone in the face, kind of thing.
Jesus
like
Christ.
it would have to be something outrageous for me to not vote for him right now, and that is only because these are the only two choices I have, which sucks for us as American people. We should have a lot more choice in this. We should have had more debates. We should have had more people involved in the debates. It would take a lot for me not to vote for him just because I care so much about securing our country and my right to own firearms.
So for me, we know Kamala's character, and so even thinking if she does the worst thing ever, would I still vote for her? Yeah, because I know the worst thing that she could do wouldn't even be the best thing that Trump does, right? Like the bars are very different. In addition to that, of course I'm going to vote for her because Trump is such a terrible alternative. I'm afraid to see what our country would look like.
I'm voting for Kamala for pragmatic reasons. January 6th made Trump ineligible in my eyes. He's a traitor. He disrupted 200 years of peaceful transfer of power. For his own self.
I think unlike the other video, which was like men's rights activists versus feminists, it was very one-sided. With this one, I think I have problems with both sides regardless.
There's reasons that he now admits that he lost by a whisker. Sarcastically, according to him.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I'll go first again. Like, one of these two people are getting in right now. My choice is Kamala Harris. That doesn't mean that anything that she does is going to keep that support. My biggest issue right now is the genocide going on in Gaza, propagated by both the Trump administration and the Biden administration. You could say that prior to October 7th, there was peace going on between Israel and Gaza, as I've heard a lot of Trump supporters say. That's just factually inaccurate, especially with the Abraham Accords, especially with moving the embassy to Jerusalem. These are things that I'm very critical of Trump on, and I'm still having trouble announcing my support for Kamala Harris. It was a big moral decision to even come on the show in support of her, but that's because I don't support her again. I think that Donald Trump is going to be somebody that's far worse for the country than she will be.
So did you know that this is the lowest civilian to combatant death rate of any war in recent history? Did you know that?
Is this going to be a Gaza topic? I'm so ready to go on Gaza.
I'm responding to that because I can't just let your word genocide go because it's not a genocide. If it was a genocide, it would have ended 2 days later and it would have been fine. Everyone would be dead.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's
Oh my God, she's one of those.
But I want to hear, go back to the prompt. You came in because you disagree. You wouldn't vote for Trump unconditionally.
No, of course. I mean, I think as a moral human being that comes from a place of love with strong core values, I can't just give anyone, carte blanche that no matter what you do.
Yeah, she definitely came across like that when she said that what's happening in Gaza isn't a genocide.
You're going to have my love and support. But from, barring anything crazy like the situation that Joe mentioned, it's pretty much 100%. Actually, I am part of Jewish Voices for Trump, and I really appreciate all of the things that he's done for the Jewish people and for the state of Israel as well. So
the next prompt is
so that's why.
In the debate.
Well, that one was really quick.
Agreeers, please step forward.
I mean, and she definitely did.
Happy to see you join us.
Like you would have to like close your eyes and like just put your fingers in your ears to think she didn't. Like did she do a great job? No, but Trump looked terrible.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
I watched the debate. A lot of Republicans were saying that Trump was going to completely obliterate Kamala Harris, and I was one of those people, but I'm the kind of person, I got to be factual and honest, and I can't lie to myself. So let's get the obvious out of the way. It was a little bit bogus against Trump with 1 versus 3. They only fact-checked Trump. They didn't really fact-check Kamala as much as I think they should have.
Well, when one candidate lost.
I mean, what was there to fact-check, literally? Like, what was there to fact-check with Kamala? Like, there was definitely, you could say, like, the bloodbath comment, but it's not like Trump hasn't used very strong, aggressive language before. Like, the bloodbath comment was the one thing that she definitely got wrong, because it was in reference to the automotive industry, and he was, like, calling it, oh, it's going to be a bloodbath. Like, the economy, when it comes to automotives, is going to be very terrible, but, like, is that any different than how he just talks about almost anything? He uses aggressive language a lot, even in terms of, his opposition.
Fact check when we're telling the truth and telling facts. And basically, the only 2 times that they did fact check was we don't murder babies after 9 months, and Haitians aren't eating dogs in Ohio.
Well, Kamala Harris perpetuated the myth that Donald Trump said there are fine people on both sides, even though Politico came out and said that. This is missing a lot of context.
Do you need to see the video?
When Trump said there are fine people on both sides, he was talking about 2 kinds of people. One were historians who wanted to keep the Robert E. Lee statue in place, and the other group were people who wanted to tear the statue down. So the Antifa, the left-wing individuals, and the historians. These were the 2 groups of people he initially were talking about. Now, the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists and the hooligans who came to interrupt, this was an outside group who came to Charlottesville to stir up trouble.
To be honest, I want to extend I have mad respect.
Absolutely.
For anybody here, any Trump supporter who will stand here in this room and say anything in support of the guy who gave that debate performance. Literally speaking as a Filipino person who, for years, we have a play named Dog Eaters on us. It was dog eating and othering of meats were used to other us and to make us feel like some other kind of different, dehumanizing thing because we're eating people's pets. And now they're putting it on Haitians. And now there's bomb threats in Ohio because of this ridiculous thing that he spewed because he got triggered because Kamala talked about how people were walking out of his crowds because he's bored and tired and senile.
And the main reason why I am sitting down is because Donald Trump took too much bait. I think that kind of performance was okay against Biden. If you guys notice, a lot of
Yeah,
he said against Biden,
I mean, that's true. He ate a lot of bait.
he said against Biden about the abortion, the baby being killed after it's born. He never should have said that. About a lot of the points that he made against Biden, and he did it against Kamala too. But the thing is, Biden literally just fell apart and quote unquote died on stage. What we saw last time, and that's why they switched him out with Kamala. So I guess Trump I was expecting him to change his playbook. You have to go after her record.
Well, it's hard to go after her record when she's impeccable, right? We have the
only qualified person there.
A prosecutor, an attorney general, a senator, and a vice president. So for him to go after her, he can't go after her policy because it's good. All you can do is make the same old, she said it herself, the same old playbook, and that's what we saw. And she totally destroyed him. She came with facts. She also just pointed out just how ridiculous the things were that he was saying, to your point about that.
I mean, that's the thing, like, they definitely could have gotten her on something, because there were a lot of things during that debate she just kind of moved away from. Like when they asked her, like, oh, back then you supported this, but now you don't support it. Like when it came to fracking, like she did previously support banning fracking, now she doesn't. But when it came to questions like that, not from Trump, but from the people, like the moderators, she didn't answer. She literally didn't. She was just like, I support fracking. That's it. She did not mention why she changed her opinion. So, like, yeah, you can definitely attack her on that front. Trump didn't, though. He just ate bait and said the most ridiculous things ever. The moderator team honestly did a better job at debating Kamala than he did.
Eating dogs and all of that stuff.
Just for that
none
alone.
Of it was factual. It had already been released that none of that stuff was true, and he still put it forward. But I respect you for coming forward.
I
and
also
admitting
feel
it.
We're going to pause here. We're going to bring in our disagreeers.
So I would say that when I judge, my kids play sports. When I judge who won, who didn't win, I want it to be an even playing field, and I think it should be a fair contest. And I know you guys love Kamala Harris. But CNN has pronounced it 12, 20 times on record. Different ways.
Just like every other person.
Semantics, you guys. Let's not get stuck. Let's go to policy.
Let's hear the rest of this. Let's go past this and hear the rest of Sheila.
So I think that there have been a lot of things that have been fact-checked by social media influencers and commentators like myself on Ms. Harris's policies and what she said as well. And there are certainly things that could have been fact-checked on that end as well. And I want to touch, I too am an immigrant. My family escaped on the back of a pickup truck from Iran in 1985 while being shot at by border police. I spent a night in the Pakistani deserts. We were caught, and we had to escape, and it took 6 months for my family to come here not speaking English. We left everything behind, started from nothing, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 8 people in it. The reason why I say that is, America is the greatest country on earth, and to erase its history instead of learning from it is what they did in China. Unburdening what has been. Let me just finish. Unburdening what has been and looking for.
Like, but what does this have to do with Kamala versus Trump? Like, what is Kamala Harris doing that is erasing our history? What, getting rid of a few racist statues? Like, they're not taking them out of the history books. Like, also, what does this have to do with anything?
To what can be is literally what was used by people trying to get rid of the old and bringing in the new world, like China Communist Party.
People being affected by those statues are telling you what it's doing to us.
Correct.
He's the one that's
we're talking
invested to go
a lot
to the
about the statue,
Seriously,
but
can
we
we
do
talk
want to
about
hear
the
about the debate. Let's just switch back to the debate. If we want to talk about the statue again later, we totally can.
Yeah.
I don't think either one of them won the debate. I feel like the only people that really lost were, other than them, was the American people. I imagine we can all kind of agree on that. Nothing was really said. Nothing was really, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but nothing ever actually gets done. I think as far.
I mean, that is kind of true. Like, again, Kamala, there were positions Kamala could have definitely hammered in more when it came to, like, on how she's going to help the American people. Like, yeah, I don't necessarily think she won based on, her policies. I think it's kind of more like how the Trump-Biden debate went. Like, Trump didn't win. He just looked a lot better than Biden because Biden was just falling apart. But even then, I don't think Trump looked that great compared to Biden. It's just more people focused on that. But when it came to Harris versus Trump, Harris was very put together. Trump was not. I think there's more distance between them than there was with the Trump-Biden one. But at the same time, I do agree. She didn't necessarily say anything that, like, I feel like would put people, like, would garner faith within her base. Unless you were already very, you already believed in her a lot in terms of what she was going to do. Like, the only thing I feel like she could have hammered in more was, like, when she say, oh, insulin costs less and we're going to work on that. Shit like that. Like, working to better people's healthcare and living situations, shit like that. Like that would definitely be better, but she didn't really hammer that in. It was just kind of a talking point for like one section that she never really brought up ever again.
As far as the debate goes, Trump dropped the ball on a couple things. The Medicare or Medicaid conversation or question that he received, he kind of dropped the ball on that one. But other than that, it was just a bunch of zingers and like back and forths and putting your hand up to make sure that the other side knows that you're judging I'm judging you, Trump. Like it was more show than anything. Kamala handled herself. I'll give you that. Like Kamala did a lot better than a lot of people thought she did. I think that's why a lot of people are saying she won, because we all, she did
she definitely did destroy him, like emphatically so. There was one section that she just completely destroyed him on, and that was the abortion question. Went to town on him, fucking destroyed him overall. I highly doubt they're gonna bring that up, or at least the people on the right. But like, yeah, she emphatically destroyed him there. Like that's the one thing that would be like, no doubt about it. She definitely won. She looked incredible during that. But I feel like she definitely could have done better on the other issues as well.
They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And then now in the United States, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it.
If you agree with that quote, step forward.
I mean, that's just stupid. Like most people who come in aren't fucking criminals. That whole statement where he's like, oh, they're releasing people from prison and taking them here. It's not true. Immigrants per capita do not commit more crime than normal U.S. citizens. It's just so fucking stupid. I'm probably just gonna, we honestly might just skip this one. Like, it's a incredibly dumb question. It's not true at all, and it fucking sucks that fucking Harris and the Democratic Party still run with that sort of platforming of being like, no, we need to keep these people out. Like, you're just giving credence to him on this thing that he's completely wrong about.
Ask you a real quick question. Can you please define what immigrants who are seeking asylum means?
So I'm political persecution, like you were saying, or somebody's going to murder them, or whatever it is. Okay. I get, like, it could be 100% true. I'm not.
So
like,
are those things? I'm just asking.
But you're assuming everyone who's coming here is like literally being shot at, like my family was, or actually. But when you see the videos,
yeah, but what about your family? Let's talk about your family.
Yeah, your family isn't special in that case. There are plenty of people who are doing that because of that reason. Like, it's so dumb to be like, no, I'm a special little boy because my family got shot. Like, there's plenty of people who go through that, and it's terrible. And it's terrible that her family had to go through that. But that is the common experience. It's so funny to literally live through that situation and not understand where most people are coming from in that situation. It's so fucking dumb. You are a fucking monster. I just don't want to even get into that migrant issue. Because, well, I do think there are people on the left who definitely made a good argument. I mean, we already saw some of them just by me skipping around. But, like, at the end of the day, with this being Trump versus Harris isn't great on that issue either. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I didn't want to stay there for long because I feel like it would just be, yeah, like, it's not great on the Harris side because she does capitulate to that framing.
One of my biggest criticisms of her is she ran on many progressive platforms, especially early on in her presidential campaign in 2020 during the primaries. She has not stuck to many of those. She's actually gone to the right on a lot of those issues. She's trying to appeal to Republicans. She's entered Dick Cheney into our camp of support. These are people that these are people that I don't think should have the respect for.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Dick Cheney. They proudly were parading Dick Cheney of being one of their supporters. Like, great.
And she's trying to rally us all in against Donald Trump.
I really am happy that you did mention that because the media portrays it like, yeah, we have more Republicans on our side, Republicans who are supporting Democrats. But you're like, wait, these aren't the kind of Republicans I would like to be on our side. So I do think that's kind of nice not to just kind of have that like clickbait. Oh, look, you know, like
same on both sides.
Same on both sides.
Yeah, like Dick. That's also the crazy thing. Like, Dick Cheney isn't even popular with Republicans. Like, history has not looked favorably on the Bush administration, even from a Republican point of view at this point.
To clarify, I don't want any Republicans on my side, I'm being honest.
Seriously, y'all can keep Dick Cheney. Keep Dick Cheney over there, please. Please keep him.
I feel like he definitely has.
We don't want the dick.
And I feel like we can go back and everybody has said one thing that they've changed now. You know, and they obviously they're just like people like us. They're going to change and evolve, and their views. And
people are,
experience.
inherently hypocritical. It's just a level of degrees.
At least from what this country or what they go through.
And like the purpose around it. Like, yeah, some people might contradict what they said years before, but they probably just changed as a person on their certain issues. But there's a difference between, being a presidential candidate, running on progressive views, and then never bringing those up, despite them being popular.
Sure, you can go back and you can look at things that he said that he has completely changed his stance on now. Like almost every single politician, Republican and Democrat, have said, homophobic or racist things. Every single one.
Not every single one, babe.
I think the biggest one, obviously, is going to be abortion. Because for me, it's kind of like, I am pro-life, but I do respect people's ability to have it done themselves. I've always said, if they want to have an abortion, let them do it. I am pro-life for myself and for my family, or I am conservative values and principles. So first, to kind of being like, I'm going to appoint Supreme Court justices to redo Roe v. Wade or send it back to the states. And then to do this flip of, I think he was interviewed about the heartbeat bill. First, he was kind of like, no, that's not long enough. And then the next day, he said, wait, no, I agree with the 6 weeks, because the Republicans got mad that he went back on what he said about abortion. So it is kind of annoying.
Yeah, because it's like inherently unpopular. It's also funny him being like, oh no, it's popular that we send it back to the states. It's inherently not true. It's like, yeah, that's like the biggest. There's many examples with Trump, but like that's definitely the biggest one because he had to take such a big backstep after that.
I don't believe Kamala has contradicted herself. Her principles have remained the same. She has always said secure borders, legal pathways to immigration. She's always said pro-choice. She's always, been consistent with her opportunity economy where we build the middle class. And so, I think that if anything, her policies are different, then that's an evolution, right? Like it's an evolution of the times that we're in. It's an evolution of changing circumstances. It's an evolution of changing demographics and what people want and need and all of that.
Then why doesn't she just say that? Because when they asked her about fracking, she just did not say at all why she changed her opinion at all. Like, no, she just completely dismissed the question, basically. But, like, even, like, no, she's definitely contradicted herself. Like, they were pretty pro-immigration during the 2020, campaign. Like, the Biden campaign, at least, was definitely pro-immigration. She definitely supported them through that. And now she's switching up. So, yeah, that definitely is a contradiction.
Stuff. But as far as her principles and her platform, it's remained the same.
I feel the same way. I think that, when you hire a CEO for a company, and let's think of America as a major company, the company has different needs at different times. That's why sometimes you bring in different CEOs because of their strengths or their connections or their ability to make change in a certain sector. And so I believe that, America is a growing organism and is like a human in that sense or a company in that sense, and it's going to require different decisions at different times. And so that's why I think that, you have to be flexible. As a business owner, I certainly have to be flexible. And so I think our...
Oh, that's why she's like that.
What are your thoughts on Dick Cheney joining the tent?
Everyone that wants to come to the Democrats, we welcome you all, right? We need the votes. In order for us to really make the democracy work, where there are two sides, right? I think that both sides have to be able to understand compromise. You have to be able to work together with people that maybe you don't agree on abortion, but you agree on immigration. Maybe you don't agree on whatever, child tax credits, but you do agree on, make sure we support our veterans. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. If we can agree on an issue, let's move it forward.
Just going on.
But it's Dick Cheney. Like, why? Like, I feel like we're gonna get to a certain point in U.S. politics where the Democrats literally bring in Mike Pence. Not Mike Pence, J.D. Vance. They'll be like, yo, J.D. Vance supports us. That's a ringing endorsement, right?
She said, I own guns. Walls owns guns. We're not going to take your guns.
I never knew that.
No, right. But like 10 minutes later, not actually 10 minutes later, but like a couple days later, she does an interview where she's like, we're not going to take your guns. But weapons of war, we're going to take those. What's a weapon of war would be my main thing. Those are the things that...
It's like AR-15. Like, I don't think that's contradictory at all. Like, not even a little bit. Like, I don't think so. Like someone should be able to, like, it's pretty easy to understand what she's saying in that regard. She's like, people should be able to own guns. It's just, like certain types of guns, or we should have like better background checks on who should be able to wield these guns. Like, yeah, if you have a pistol, that's fine. If you own an AR-15, no. Like, I think that's pretty reasonable. Like, why should anyone have an AR-15? Like, what are you going to use that for? What can you do with an AR-15 that you couldn't do a pistol in a circumstance to defend yourself? Well, unless, like, a little fucking army is going after to attack you, what do you need it for? Like, there have been more instances of AR-15s being used in fucking school shootings than in self-defense.
That affect me as a gun owner. Sure. I love being able to have the option to protect my family. If that's taken away...
And how can you not protect your family with just a pistol than with like an automatic rifle?
And now I have to just run outside of my house if somebody breaks in. Like, what are people... I feel so bad for people that live in California with the way that things are... just criminal-wise, with people breaking into homes, stealing stuff. That should not be allowed. You should be able to defend yourself. And if that was taken away... I don't know what I would do. I would definitely bury my stuff in a basement like John Wick, but like...
So when it comes down to the whole gun thing, I think everybody needs to just start being for real. As a person that grew up in deep down south in Louisiana, if you're talking about protecting your family, who is this group of people that is coming and knocking and banging down y'all, what are you doing to bring that in your life, A? And B, if you didn't need the AR-15, and this, you're talking to a veteran, okay? I didn't really need to walk around with AR, a veteran who built bombs. I didn't need to walk around with a doggone machine gun 24/7 to protect all of this. Like, it wasn't necessary, it wasn't needed. And I did, most importantly, did not need to bring that home to feel like my house was protected. I'm not saying no guns, that we should take all guns. I feel like we can all agree at this point, something has to change and something has to
Just the way
change.
they regulate cars.
I was totally with you prior to COVID. I was like, why do we need assault rifles? Why do we need, machine guns? I was totally with you. And then when COVID happened, I realized that the progressives don't stop. First they said 6 feet apart.
Oh my god. She's probably a fucking RFK supporter.
My question to you on that, and the reason why I changed, is
She's
let's say
just
the
brain
anti-gun
dead.
lobby gets a win. Let's say they take away the assault rifles. Do you think that they will fully dissolve and say, okay, all other guns are fine? Or do you think that they're going to go after the next gun and the next gun until there's no more guns in America?
I think
I hope so.
Same consistent guns.
I hope so, honestly.
I don't think they're talking about stripping and taking away all of you guys' guns. I'm just saying that they're proposing something needs to be done. And if you didn't need, like, we're not walking around with people chasing us down. Like, I don't know, even in the hood. I don't know what y'all like. I grew up in Shreveport. Still didn't need a machine gun to walk around in. And I'm talking about that has one of the highest murder capitals in the country. You do not need a machine gun, an automatic rifle.
I think
But if
We're
you
getting
did,
caught up on
if you did,
specific
You
gun types.
don't. You've never needed it before. Let's be for real.
Okay, so we gotta put a pin in it because we're chasing specific issues. I want to ask. These are not talking questions. These are just raise your hand. So on this side,
Okay.
I know it's hard. Who here would be in support? The government should get involved with taking guns, certain guns, away from citizens. Raise your hand.
Is this gun regulation or is
Gun
this like
regu- yeah.
actually removing it from house?
Let's just say you're in support of some policy that would remove at least some guns from the possession of citizens. Raise your hand.
As a veteran, though?
Yes, because it's common sense.
I was deployed in Afghanistan.
All right,
They had this.
our next prompt. Harris doesn't understand the economy as well as Trump.
I'm gonna skip this one. I don't really care. Yeah, let's start with this one. Trump is more extreme to the right than Kamala is to the left. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's just true.
It's the one thing that I wanted to say in this debate because in 2016 she was rumored to be very hardcore against cannabis. And when in fact I did my research, I found out that she was only convicted 45 people.
While VP Harris was San Francisco DA, her office won convictions in 1,956 felony and misdemeanor marijuana cases. According to Bay Area News Group, 45 people convicted were sentenced to state prison.
She was demonized on her views of cannabis. And for me, that's a big issue because it's my medicine.
Do you see her as far left, though?
I see her not left enough on that issue.
Got it.
Like for me, descheduling is the way to go. It's not rescheduling, it's decriminalizing and descheduling because it's a plant.
We can smoke afterwards then.
I want to move away from cannabis and go back to like the political spectrum and landscape. I think that Kamala Harris definitely could be a lot more progressive in areas where originally she might have been. The biggest criticisms from progressives, right, is her role as a DA and as an attorney general. So there were a lot of people that were incarcerated under his administration. I don't know why people pretend like San Francisco was a rehabilitative justice city when it was very retributive under the Kamala Harris run under there. But when it comes to Donald Trump, like, sure, you could say a lot of his policies are not as far right as maybe some of his peers, like a Ted Cruz or like the Heritage Foundation.
Or J.D. Vance.
He has like completely dismissed Project 2025 multiple times. Does that mean that he won't actually enact a lot of those policies? Who knows? We'll see if he does get reelected. But I think his rhetoric specifically is very far right. And that's when we see things like immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country, when he's saying things like they're bringing in rapists, they're bringing in terrorists. That type of language has a very strong byproduct when it comes to how those communities are treated in different states.
We're eating dogs now, apparently.
And I think too, just like his prioritization of a white nationalist group, he might not say that entire thing, but when you're inviting people like Nick Fuentes to the White House, when you are hosting white nationalists and making it a comfortable space for them, that has really detrimental effects, especially in the communities that those seem to target. And I'm not saying every Trump supporter is a white nationalist or these people are super racist, but Trump definitely capitulates to those groups, and that's something that is very, very extremely right.
Trump is certainly more extreme. I mean, he doesn't have policies, right? He has rhetoric. He has, his just being, this huge voice that loves the rallies, that loves the attention. But he's not putting forth policies. He's only speaking to those people that, hate other groups, that, are trying to, make America great again, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. He's not giving policy that's advancing the country. He's speaking to groups of folks that, honestly, I think want to return us back to slavery, or at least that time period, right? That's an extreme view.
Like, to summarize it completely, right? Not every Trump supporter is a white nationalist, but every white nationalist is a Trump supporter.
And also, Andrew Gillum said it best.
Yeah.
He may not be a racist, but the racists think he's a racist.
Precisely.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
Okay, so I love this topic because this was actually one of the first things that made me start thinking differently. I remember in school, my professor, my teacher, whatever, was going crazy about Trump being so evil and so racist, and he hates black people. And I remember I was kind of like, okay, I'm supposed to be a Democrat, and I raised my hand and I asked, okay, if Trump is so racist, why did he put forth the First Step Act, which let thousands upon thousands of black men out of prison? Most of these black men were in jail for.
The First Step Act, signed by former President Trump, created a time credit system that allows inmates to earn time credits for participating in I don't know what the word is. Reduction programs and productive activities. Those credits can be later applied toward an early release. There's nothing race related towards that. Also, I think that's disgusting. Because that sounds a lot like, oh, if you do enough task for us, if you do enough work, we'll let you out. Like if you work for us for nothing, just for free, we'll let you out of prison early. Like that's disgusting. Like how about you work more on, instead of doing this, instead of getting free labor from people, why don't you put forth an act that allows for easier access for rehabilitation instead of just getting cheap labor? Like that, this is not a good point.
And someone mentioned slavery, and he wants to take us back to slavery. But I believe in 2011, the courts came forward to tell Kamala Harris.
I mean, that First Step Act actually takes you much closer to it.
The prisons in California are overcrowded, specifically in San Francisco. But Kamala wanted those people to stay in prison so that they can be used as cheap labor to put out the California wildfires.
Did she not go back and speak on that and apologize and like correct her mistake and say that she admitted the way we went about that was maybe not the correct way, but that you are trying to focus in on the most on a minuscule part of her character. Like you're trying to like paint her out to be this person that is the complete opposite of what she showed us to be. And like I don't know, we're talking about somebody that at least had tried to do prison reform versus somebody that believed 5 little innocent black boys deserve to be put on death row.
Okay, so at the time, if you were in the 1990s, crime was very high, higher than what it is right now. And obviously, if you were listening to the fact that 5 people brutally raped a woman, and she couldn't even testify because she was so bloody and bruised. She couldn't even show up in court to say, these are the people who did it. So obviously back then, we don't have cell phones, we don't have Google or iPhones or none of that. And you're like, man, that's crazy.
It doesn't mention race in it either.
It doesn't mention race. The only thing she knew that these were 5 people who
Jesus
raped
Christ.
and brutalized someone, and they confessed to it. I know later they were exonerated, but they
Do you not
they were
understand how
confessed.
these
They
industrial
confessed.
prisons?
That doesn't mean you can take an ad out on a paper saying that. Like, just keep that opinion to yourself, man. Oh, my God.
Not all Trump supporters are racist, but all racists are Trump supporters.
I'd like to respond to that.
Yeah, let's.
Okay, so would you also agree that all Hamas supporters are Democrats?
No, I don't think so.
That's different.
No, that's actually not the case. I mean, I think what she's trying to say is pro-Palestine people, and even then, that's not necessarily the case. There are people who are pro-Palestine who aren't exactly doing it for the right reasons. They more or less just hate Jews and see that as a good way of, garnering support in a way, like Nick Fuentes. So, and like Candace Owens.
I'd love to talk about
Sheila, respectfully though, I would say.
They have more conservative views.
Quiet. Respectfully, that's not an answer to this claim. I want to hear a response to their claim that all racists support Trump.
Let's say each side has their extremists. Would we agree to that? And each side is not proud of their extremists. Would we agree to that?
I don't think extremists would identify as Democrats, but white nationalists would
We're
identify.
talking about white supremacy.
We're talking
Yeah.
about KKK.
I'm a leftist. I'm pretty far on the left. I don't describe as a Democrat. I really don't.
Okay, let's talk about the KKK. So in 2000,
I don't support Kamala Harris. I wish she was better on some policies, but I'm not like inherently in support of her.
How many members were there in the KKK? How many members are in the KKK?
Why would
don't
it
know.
matter?
I don't
Because
study
it
the
still exists.
KKK.
Oh, it is too many.
No,
Are you okay?
listen to me.
What's the larger point?
Screaming doesn't help. So the larger
my
point
God.
is there's 5,000 members in 2018 in the KKK with their little tiki torches marching around town doing their thing. Now, the greater threat to me, again, somebody who escaped socialism, is the Socialist Democrats of America.
Oh my
who are
God.
well-funded, who are backing the AOCs and the Ilhan Omars, and who are passing legislation in this country.
That's
so
a bigger threat for you?
That is a bigger threat to me. Absolutely.
I'm gonna be honest. If your fucking opponent is Ilhan Omar, that says a lot about you.
Walking
Okay,
around
okay,
in
okay,
Walking
so-
around in
lynching.
I'm getting the
I
middle.
don't know. Really, in your real life?
Me too.
Yes, I'm from Louisiana.
Real quick, show of hands. Who wants to acknowledge that there are extreme people in their party that they're not proud of? Raise yours.
The conservative Democrats.
Absolutely.
Yeah, conservative Democrats.
No. In your party.
There's,
Oh, so you're saying like
there's no
dictatorship?
crazy people on the
Dick Cheney's
left or the
Republican.
right.
But
Cheney's Republican.
I feel like that's a
Crazy people on the left are not
I feel like
Democrats.
that's a disingenuous answer. What I'm asking is, raise your hand if you take ownership that there
No,
are
that's definitely the case. Is it disingenuous to say that you're not proud of conservative Democrats on your side? Yes.
people further than you on your side of the political spectrum that you're not proud of in your party.
There's extremes on both sides, for sure.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if that's the thing, then no. Like I'm going to be more mad at people who are more to the right within the Democratic Party.
Thanks. All right, our next prompt is, there are policies on the other side.
And obviously that comes from someone
I agree
who
with.
identifies as a leftist, but even the staunch Harris supporter who said that she welcomes people like Dick Cheney into the party doesn't feel that way either. Like, yeah, I don't like people who, like, I don't like conservative Democrats.
Rear, step forward.
I certainly don't agree that guns should be taken. Not that any Democrat has ever said that, but I think that's sort of like what Republicans think, and I don't believe on it, and I don't think most Democrats believe we are taking guns or even completely banning all guns, because there are security issues, or it's being able to use them and recreationally, et cetera. So I don't believe in that, and again, I don't think Democrats are saying that, but that's what we're portrayed as.
I agree with what the Biden administration that they put in the PACT Act. I think that's great for veterans. That's my main shtick, is like we need to do more for vets. There's not enough stuff being done for veterans that needs to be done, and at some point we need to hit the pause button and say, screw everybody else. We need to fix America. We need to lock the doors, figure everything out, get everybody up and ready, and then start opening the doors, letting people in.
I heard that Biden was really good with labor. I think the NLRB, don't quote me on that, I think that's what it's called, but they said he was doing a lot of good things for labor and stuff. So even when I was like, okay, do I really want to move from Biden to Trump, I had to really think about it. But that was one thing that I said, okay, I'll give Biden something, because I like to give credit where credit is due. Like, okay, that was a good thing. I wish they talked more about that, and maybe it would have helped him before he dropped out.
As far as for me, I disagree almost entirely with the Republican Party platform, and I disagree with the majority of the Democrat Party platform. I think both parties really seek to protect capital interests and protect wealthy. So those are some things I really would disagree about, because I care more about the American people, especially the working class. So we probably have a lot of similarities there. But when it comes to Republican policies, I really think Project Warp Speed was great, especially to make sure that we do get some sort of infrastructure protecting from the spread of COVID. So getting vaccines in record time was very impressive, that I do give Trump the credit to. Don't know how much y'all might like that, but I do give him credit.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I mean, a big reason why it spread the way it did is because he ignored it. I don't know. We might skip this one. I'm not sure. We'll just see what the first person says.
I just have trouble understanding sometimes what the policy is on the other side. Like up until very recently, Vice President Harris's website was selling T-shirts and actually had no policies written on it. And so when asked about her policies, like when they asked, are Americans better off now than they were 4 years ago, she'll just punt the question and start answering something else. So for me, I would like to know what the policies are like actually. And again, a lot of the stuff that she had said were her policies. Now she's come over to the right a little bit, which I think is a good thing. I think a lot of people should be coming over to the right. But I would like to have a list. I would like to know exactly, and actually they just polled American people. 70-something% of people, this was yesterday, on both sides said they're confused about what Vice President Harris's policies are. So both sides. And so I would, before saying, do I agree or do I not agree, what are the policies?
I looked before we even started this. They're there. I mean, the policies are on there, right? She's talking about expanding the child tax credit. She's talking about getting the border plan back on track. She's talking about the opportunity economy. She's talking about.
Why talk about something that doesn't support her in that great? That just goes back to her claim of being like, yeah, which is factual, being like she leans a fair amount to the right.
About making sure we have a middle class, right? I feel like most of us are probably, not to make an assumption, probably in the middle class. She's talking about helping us to elevate us, right? She's talking about taxing people that make like millions of dollars, right? And making sure people that make $400,000 and below their taxes aren't increased. And so it's there, and I think it would be beneficial if people did read it, right? Because there are good things in there, whether you agree with the candidate or not. She's trying to make sure that we, everyday folks, are able to have and live and sustain ourselves. And so.
Okay, so on her website there is a policy to give first-time home owners and first-time home buyers $25,000, and I would assume you guys would think that's a good thing, right? The point I would like to make is a lot of Democrats, they prop this up as a really good thing. Like, look at all the money she's going to give to these people. First of all, where is this money going to come from? That's a fair question. Secondly, these are for first-time home owners and first-time home buyers. In 2008, between 2008 and 2011, the housing crisis affected 53% of black people. These are people who already have a house. And these people were affected by predatory lending from banks. We're talking BMO Harris, we're talking Wells Fargo.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, that's very much true. There is things that she brings forth that isn't really going to help people. Like, that is a good step forward, definitely, but that doesn't stop a lot of the predatory actions that happen within the housing industry. And also what she said about people who want to become business owners, people independent business owners, that whole thing, I forget exactly what it was, but not every person can become a business owner. There are definitely policies she has that can help, but she doesn't really rely on those too much. It's just weird. We're probably gonna end it here because it's last prompt. No matter who wins this election, will be okay. I don't really care to cover it, honestly. If Harris wins, if my personal belief, if Harris wins, I think things are probably going to remain the same. There's probably going to be a little bit more right leaning on certain issues, which will definitely suck. I mean, and when I say things will stay the same, I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I wish things would get better. I don't think we'll be okay with either one. I think with Harris, it's just going to be not that much of a change. With Trump, it's definitely going to be a big change. That's about it. I just don't really care to cover this one. So yeah, we're just probably going to move on from this.